We're going to talk about whether you should sell first or buy first if you are a downsizer. I'm going to share a story of a client that I sat with last week, and I'm going to sit down today and explain the pros and the cons and help you figure out which bucket you belong in. And if after you watch this video, you say, I don't really know where I fit in, then I'm going to tell you, you probably want to send an email or pick up the phone and give us a call to book a private consultation. I'm Jackie Othen with Real Broker, and I work with seniors most of the time, and I'm going to say 80% of my client base are seniors who I love and I adore, but the reality is they haven't been in the market, haven't sold a home for many, many years in most cases. Sometimes we meet a senior who sold their home 5 years ago and they're ready to go into the final downsize, but more often than not, I'm sitting down with sellers and homeowners and their children in some cases where they've been in their homes for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. The longest I saw was 60 years, yes, truly, and they were living very independently but ready to move on. So here we go. Let's tackle the question that came to me last week from a very lovely couple in, I'm going to say, their late 70s to early 80s. They're in a beautiful home. They've lived in this beautiful home for many, many years that has a serene, incredible setting that looks over the lake. Yes, they have a glimpse of Lake Ontario. They love their property, but it has just become too much for them to manage as they've gotten older. The stairs have become too much to go up and down. The gardens, which are glorious and in full bloom, were just too much for them to maintain. And of course, the snow shoveling and the maintenance of the home, just generally speaking, it has become too much, and so they are thinking about downsizing now in anticipation of the day where their knees cannot handle their stairs, and they're planning ahead like a responsible person should. They don't want to have something happen and one of them ends up in the hospital or one of them ends up really ill and the other one's making a decision under duress. So they're doing what I would say responsible seniors should be doing. In my view, probably a little bit later. I would have loved to meet these people a couple of years ago so that the transition could be a little smoother, because I can already see that they're having some aches and pains and they're a little tired. But we can't all choose when we reach out for help. The point is that when you're ready to reach out for help, do it without hesitation, because when you call us in for an opinion, we're not there to hammer the sign in the lawn. We're there to give you good, loving, direct, straight, open, honest advice. And I think that is the basis for where all good decisions can flourish from. So I'm going to paint a little picture. When I met them last week with their daughter there, they are lovely. Their home, like I said, is exceptional, but it is in need of some repairs. And the reality is right now in 2026, in the month of July, we are not in the seller's market that we were in 3 years ago. This is very much a buyer's market. For some of you watching this, you're not sure what that means, so I will explain it quite simply. In some neighborhoods, we've got months of inventory sitting, meaning a home went on the market, it didn't sell, it was either relisted, put back on the market at a new price, and now it's just sitting and waiting for the buyer. Few years ago, 3 years ago, it would take hours for something to sell. We'd put a house on the market within an hour or 3 or 5 or a day, it was gone and it was snatched up. And I'm sure that if you're a senior watching this, you probably remember seeing that happen in your neighborhood. A sign would come on a lawn of a neighbor's home and then it was gone as fast as it was installed. So there'd be a sold sign just the day after the sign had been installed saying for sale. That market is not the reality now. If you're driving around your neighborhood or walking around your neighborhood, you've probably seen a whole bunch more for sale signs, and that is the sign of a buyer's market. So buyers have choices. They're not acting very quickly or aggressively, and they're very measured about the decisions that they're making financially. So, I had an agent say to me yesterday when I was chatting with her and giving her feedback about her property, she said, buyers want the Taj Mahal and sellers want, $10 million for their homes. And although it was an exaggeration, I could hear her loud and clear. And that is sort of the sentiment right now. People are looking for perfection and beauty and exceptional product in homes or condos when they're out touring. And they don't really want to open up the wallets as freely. As we know, life's much more expensive. So people are making careful, thoughtful decisions now, which means your home or your neighbor's homes are sitting on the market longer. So how does that fit into should you buy first or should you sell first? So I'm going to give you very straightforward things to think about if you are considering downsizing and you really, really would like to know where you're going first and you are strongly leaning towards buying a home or buying a condo before selling your home. So there are 3 things to think about in my opinion, and these are 3 of the most important things to decide upon before you either purchase your new condo or put your place for sale. So the first thing, if you're thinking about buying something, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, are you in a position financially to own 2 homes? Are you able to carry the condo that you'd like to purchase or the small bungalow in addition to your current home? Now, if the answer to that is anything but yes, we are fully able to do that financially. We've got lots of money in the bank. We can afford to carry 2 homes. We can afford to carry, potentially a mortgage or a home equity line of credit and maintenance fees for condos and taxes for 2 places for, I'm going to say, a period of time from anywhere from 3 to 6 months, then you might be okay to buy. But if the answer to the question is, it makes me nervous, I don't think we can do it financially, or you're not really sure, we want to pump the brakes. We want to stop and we want to have a conversation with the bank and we want to have a conversation with our realtor to say, what are the costs going to look like, and a mortgage broker to figure out what carrying 2 properties is going to look like. And I would say it's July now, but it's possible you might not put your home on the market until September because August is very sleepy. It's a really great time to buy in August because there's picked over inventory. But if you have a home to sell and you want to make sure it sells, you don't know, you're probably not going to put it on the market in the month of August because 80% of the buyers tend to disappear, go on vacation, go to Europe, go to their cottages and downshift. So if you're looking for your property to go to market, the question is, let's say you bought something now in the month of July and weren't prepared to put your home on the market until September, we have to count for that gap. So the first thing is, can you afford to do it financially? The second thing I want you to think about is, can you sleep at night knowing that you're in a financial situation where you own 1 property and you haven't sold the other one? And I'm going to say the silence is really to make you think. I know some people have a really high tolerance for all sorts of situations, and I'm going to say a stress tolerance, and they're not conservative by nature. I'm conservative by nature. I don't want to have 2 places that I'm worried about. I want to be in my new home and happy and settled and not have to worry about my home sitting on the market. And sometimes what I say to clients is, if you're going to lose sleep, you can bet your real estate professional is also going to lose sleep. So if having 2 places is going to keep you up at nights, is going to eat away at your stomach, or it's going to really make you stressed out and nervous, I'm going to say your health is not worth it. You want to make a transition to downsize, but you'd like this to be as smooth as possible. And in some cases, when people go out and rush to buy the home first that they're seeing themselves downsizing into, but don't have their home sold, you can lose a lot of sleep and have a lot of unnecessary stress because of that decision. Now, the first question was, can you afford to do it? So I'm going to say, if you can afford to do it, and one was, I'm very comfortable, I'm prepared, then you're probably not going to lose a lot of sleep, which is my second concern. So if you're okay with that, you're probably going to be okay. But if you are at all uneasy or unsure, I'm going to say you want to be able to get as much good advice up front before you go ahead and purchase something. So the third thing is making sure that if question 1, which was, are we able to do this financially? And question 2, are you going to lose sleep over these decisions later if things don't run as you plan? The third point is super important, and I think very underestimated by a lot of professionals who are inexperienced. The third thing to think about is, what condition is the home or condo that you are currently living in, your current home, and is it market ready? Meaning, let's say we go and buy the house that we have been dreaming of or plan to downsize in. We have to stop and ask ourselves, is our home ready to go to market immediately? Or is there a capital expenditure, cost, money that has to go into fixing up your appliances, painting the home, staging the home perhaps? Do we have to factor those costs in, and have we thought about those clearly? Because that is going to affect your timeline. So when I say we can afford to do it, we're not going to lose sleep. The third important question, and I'm going to say, I know it's at the end, but it's super important to consider on the front end, is the home that you're living in market ready? Could you get it up on the market very quickly if you had to, in order to alleviate the financial stress or the emotional stress or the physical stress that's going on in your world? And if the answer is the home is not ready, or your professional realtor has not seen your current home to be able to give you good advice about what's required in this market, again, it's a buyer's market. Buyers are looking for picture perfect. They're looking for priced right. So we want to make sure that we've had our home evaluated, we've had our home decluttered, and we have a really good sense about what's needed to be done in order to make good, solid decisions. Because the couple that I went to last week, they were amazing. They were lovely. They were sitting on a beautiful property, but there was work to be done. And if we're not going to tackle the work, which is fine, everybody has a different level of comfort, the house is not going to be evaluated or worth what they think it's going to be worth when compared to a home that's in their neighborhood, that's polished and beautiful and renovated or just up to date. The best thing to do is to get in touch with a professional realtor who works with seniors in situations like yours to be able to sit down and actually help you prepare what's called a net sheet to figure out all of the costs and make sure that they are something that you are prepared for. And I'm going to tell you, you're very likely going to need to loop in a banker, whether it's the banker at your local bank or a professional mortgage broker, somebody who's a specialist and who does this again for a living specifically, not just with all buyers and sellers, but specifically with downsizers to make sure that they understand your unique situation. Because just like last week, I was asked, I'm prepared to make this decision. We have the money in the bank, but when I said, are you prepared to carry 2 homes? They both looked at me, lovely, lovely people, and were overwhelmed at what the thought of that would be. And the question was from them, well, for how long? And that's sometimes an unknown depending on the area that the home is located in. So we want to think about all 3 questions before we rush out and make an offer on something because we're so afraid to lose out. And I have clients tell me that all the time, but it's perfect. I love it. And I'm going to say, well, can you live without sleep and can you live under that stress? And is your home ready to go? And I'm going to say if the answer to all 3 questions are not a strong yes, then you probably want to hit pause. You want to get a realtor in to have a look at your home and start with what that's worth, what that needs to get going, and assess your financial situation before you write any offers on any place that you envision yourself to. That is the best and safest way to proceed. And that's probably what I would do if I was in your shoes and downsizing today. And remember, everyone's financial situation is so very different. Just because I'm giving you this advice over a video doesn't mean this works for everybody. Everyone's financial situation is unique, physical situation is unique, and the people that surround them, like their children who might be able to help them with home renovations or repairs or actioning things to get the house ready, or their realtor. You might have a really strong realtor who you trust and who's giving you a really conservative price on your home, who has trades that can jump in to help you. The question is, do you have all of that? Because your situation may not be your friend who went ahead and bought a condo last year and her house sold in a week. You might be in a completely different area, in a different market, or in a different category financially. So knowing where you stand is the most important decision. And I'm going to tell you that if I had to put myself into your shoes as a downsizer, I would make sure that I had questions 1 to 3 answered and super comfortable with those before I jumped into any decision to buy a condo or buy a house or buy a bungalow for my downsize. Proceed with caution.